Good morning. Good morning. We have Miss Jen Liss today on the podcast. She is a friend for a couple of years, I guess. We met through another coaching program community and in person down in Boca. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today and hear more about all of the fun ways that you are helping women and yourself live a life by your design. So, welcome, welcome.
I'm excited to be here and excited to be living a life by my design.
Hell yeah. One of my favorite things that I've seen from you is how to fuck around and get paid.
The idea came to me one day. I was like, I just want to fuck around and get paid. That's all I want to do. And I feel like that's what I came to this life to do. And I had this thought that I can't be the only one who feels this way. I
Right.
surely can't be the only person who's just like, all I came to this earth to do is fuck around and live abundantly. And I think there's other people who want to do it too. So I popped open a Facebook group and it's slowly grown from there. And we have a lot of fun.
Ugh. Yeah. So, what does that mean to you? Fuck around to get paid.
Yeah. At its basis, what this means is what I have really discovered on my journey, which is the more fun you have, the better life is. And in this world, we live in this capitalist society, obviously. So that in turn means that the more you can enjoy your life, money helps. It just helps because we live currently in just the way that the world works. We don't work on the barter system. I don't trade you my sugar for your cow's milk. And so getting paid is the way that we often access more freedom. But all of those things that we want, the paydays come. It's not get paid and fuck around. It's fuck around and get paid. The paydays come by having more fun. And that's my theory about life that I continue to live myself, that the more fun I have, the more money I make. The more joy that I tap into, the better life gets. And the better it gets, the better it gets. And so that is my conjecture that I would like to continue to prove right for myself and for others.
Hell yeah. And that's really what it's all about. Like when you're seeking the money, that's not really living in alignment and that's not leading you to joy or a life by your design. But I think our old program, right, is kind of the that's what we are taught to follow the money, do what makes sense. And I love that you're proving that wrong.
Yeah, we're taught that it's the money first, but that's not how it actually works. That's not how it's never worked. I heard this beautiful quote from Jerry Seinfeld. He said, I never went into comedy thinking that I was going to make money. I went into comedy because doing comedy sounded fun. And so I convinced myself to get up and to do it, even though it was hard, because it still sounded fun. Even that kind of hard sounded fun to me. And then over time, because he was following his joy, he said, I began to make money doing it because turns out the thing that was fun for me was the thing that I was good at. And so I continue to do it every day. And so I think that lesson, he said the thing that, most people are getting wrong, most young people, is that we follow the money. And so we follow careers that we think are going to get us the money, but then it doesn't get us the happiness. And so many of us, myself included, we've gone through that burnout spiral and we think, oh, this is going to be the thing that gets me to that ultimate fulfillment. And it never will. You have to learn to follow your joy. So that's been my process. And that's where that whole concept started.
Yeah, follow your joy. The other one that gets me through is your desire and God's will for you are one and the same. Like you don't need to question, just follow the things that are lighting you up and that's what's going to lead you down the ultimate path, right? And open a lot more doors for you.
So true. Your desire is divine instruction. I firmly believe that that is true, is that your desire is there and it's there because it's also connected to your joy. What you desire is something that you inherently enjoy. You don't desire it unless you enjoy it. If you desire it and you don't enjoy it, that's actually not your divine instruction. So,
Yeah.
But a lot of us actually learn that we're not safe to follow the things that bring us joy, that it's not safe to experience pleasure. And so that's where, for me, the somatic work has become such a huge part of what I do, and breath work. We've done breath work together. Breath work has been such a huge part of it because I realized, wow, I myself on my journey, I felt more comfortable being uncomfortable than I felt comfortable experiencing my joy and having fun. It was really hard for me to have fun. It was hard for me to experience my joy. So my desire, those divine instructions, the all of that was very difficult for me to listen to. I couldn't hear it, and the desires were attached to things that actually were not my real desires at all. And so by listening to my own body and by finding tools that helped me to do that, I began to get access to my intuition, and I began to start to know what was my aligned no, what was my aligned yes, what was actually in tune with my vibration of joy and then my divine instructions. And that has been the most transformative thing. And I love teaching other people how to feel safe, to feel joy. It sounds absolutely bonkers that that's something that we would have trouble with. But I see over and over and over people who lack purpose, who are struggling with their purpose, are really blocked when it comes to having a good time, and
Having
having
a
a
good
good
time
time that
and
doesn't
feeling.
involve certain negative things like talking crap on people when they get together with their friends, those kinds of things. So I'm curious, because you obviously have this podcast to support people with designing the life that they love. What do you hear and experience, and in your own personal experience, what do you sense that is blocking people from that? Like, what's your personal experience with that?
Yeah, a lot of things. I think, conditioning, we start at an early age where we are more in touch with our intuition than we are, midlife. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. School, um, parents, they're well meaning, but they know what worked for them. And so they want to imprint on you the things that worked for them instead of like allowing you and your creativity to blossom over time. And, um, what makes sense to a child doesn't always make sense to an adult. And we try to change that as if it's a problem. It's not a problem. We don't need to know the outcome. I think a lot of times we think we can control and muster our way through every decision in life. And we get out of touch with our inner wisdom, with our inner voice, with God, with divine downloads every day. And there's just so much out there that is preventing us from getting in touch with that voice. School, for example, traditional school, like you have to conform, you have to get in a line, you have to do all your homework the same exact way. If you don't learn this way, then you're going to get in a special program. And um, I think things are changing. I think that we are seeing a shift, and you know, more people are opening their eyes to what's really happening there, and allowing children to lead a little bit more rather than trying to put them all in a box.
Yeah, I feel that too. The reason that my podcast is called Untethered is because I came to this realization that I felt like I was a marionette on strings. And the way that my life was being lived was performative. It wasn't me. And we start out freely moving, like you're saying, like a child, and then it's like, well, I have to do this thing to make my parents happy. Oh, I have to do this thing to fit in with the other kids. Oh, I have to do this thing to be a good girl. I have to do this thing to get the straight A. And then over time, our bodies are moving, and it's not us who is driving them. It's somebody else's thoughts and beliefs. And so my intention is to support myself and others to untether from all of those things that are not you, so that you can come home to start listening to yourself, so that you can design the life that you love, not the life that anybody else is asking you to do. Because the truth is that although we're all in some way trying to make marionettes of each other in order to create safety in our world, we're asking other people to do certain things. We don't actually want anybody else to do those things. What we really want is them to be them, but it feels unsafe to our nervous systems, and so we do those controlling behaviors. We all do it. We all do. We all have expectations of our loved ones. We have expectations of ourselves that are unreasonable. we place those, it's very human to do it. And, but when we have no consciousness of that, of the fact that we're doing it, that's when we end up in that marionette state that a lot of people, I think by midlife, we wake up and we're like, I hear this often, who am I? I actually
Yeah.
don't even know who I am. And so there's this beautiful unraveling process that begins to happen. And the gorgeous thing is that we often take other people along that unraveling process with us, which is what I've done through my podcast, you're doing with your podcast. So many other beautiful people in these communities that have bounced up, what you've said, where it's these conscious communities that we have created that are turning around and giving that to the next generation, which is supporting them in coming up from a place. I think of your children. How beautiful is it that your children are growing up with a mother who has this level of conscientiousness about this and the
Mhm.
difference of the life that they will live having somebody like you. Now, will there be things that someday when they're older, I hate to tell you, Lynz, they're going to be like, I can't believe my mom did this. Oh, because of my
Yeah.
mom, that's just human. That's part of you were brought together as souls to have that experience. But um, I think we're raising a new level of consciousness right now that I think is really cool and needed. We've got AI that's coming in and taking so many of the things that humans used to do, and we need humans to be different. And so there's this big call for us to act and respond differently than we've acted and responded before. And it's pretty earth shaking for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, AI can be scary and can also be um, a new portal. Like, I feel there's a huge spirituality shift. Like, not necessarily everybody's shifting back to traditional religion, but I think there's a shift back into seeking more meaning, seeking more, um, the higher consciousness that really drives our purpose and that really, um, you know, beats our heart and breathes life into us every day. That was kind of disconnected. And I see a shift that everywhere. It seems like everywhere I look, I know that we see what we are and we see what we want, but that seems to be a huge thing that's happening in the last, I don't know, I guess since it's come into my awareness last couple of years, but more so in just the last 6 months. There's more elevated conversations and expanded awarenesses.
Yeah, I think that's natural that we would be in that place right now, which you can look at as really scary, which a big segment of the population sees it as a scary thing. Other people see it as an opportunity, and that's not a bad thing that we're seeing it in two different ways. But the people who see it as an opportunity are going to be the ones who lead the way. And those are the people who I work with. Those are the people who I'm interested in hanging out with because I'm also one of those people. And so there's always checks and balances to life. I don't think that it's wrong that some people think a different way, but I do think that there is a wave of us that are seeing the next evolution of humans, and the way that we will evolve next is not by the external knowing, but by the internal knowing. Because right now I have this theory that we're entering into the age of humans no longer needing to know things because we have AI, which knows things. But there is a different kind of knowing that a lot of us are
Yeah.
being called back to, which is that
This
spirituality.
inner
It's that the inner knowing, the all knowing, that intuition that we've been so disconnected to because we've been so obsessed with. This is a podcast, so people can't see me pointing to my head, but I'm pointing to my head right now. We've been so obsessed with knowing. And
Mm.
so now we're being called back to knowing, which is really in this new age. If things keep going the way that we go and we don't burn the place down and have to go back to us like coming back up as human beings, if we can stay in this place and we can maintain this level of consciousness, it's the inner knowing that's going to get us to the next phase. And so we're getting pretty multi-dimensional here, Lyndsey, but that's where I see like a lot of excitement. And I also see people being scared, jobs feeling like we suddenly don't know what human beings are meant to do anymore, people who are being called back to spirituality. And I think that's a natural thing, but we're not being called back to hierarchy spirituality. We're being called back to personal empowered, the real essence of who you are and what you really know and what all of us know. And I think it's exciting. I feel like we're living in an incredible, exciting time. And I'm so glad that my soul manifested at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but, there's been such a period of, like COVID was so full of um, lies and everything was misconstrued, and we didn't know how much we were being fed, right? So it's really interesting that you bring that up about how we are getting back in touch with our inner knowing. Because now we've seen what happens when we're not. We've seen what happens when we don't trust our inner knowing, and then we trust what we see and not what we feel and what is inside.
And isn't it interesting that we live in the biggest trust deficit of at least our lifetimes? I don't know about ever, because I think humans have been struggling with this for a long time, but this is definitely a major, major. And the more AI comes up, we don't know what to trust. So the external that's being shown to us is lack of trust. So there's no option other than the option that's going to move humanity forward, which is inward trust, which is self-trust, which is divine guidance. We will not be able to trust anything else because we don't know what's real except what's real.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's kind of cool that way when you look at it and you see through that perspective of, okay, the macro of what's happening here is actually all of this lack of trust will guide us back to our inner trust. And we absolutely have to have that. That's where creativity comes from. That's where all my entire exploration started. I really started in like, what is creativity? And I remember I created a podcast episode that was like, it's two ideas put together. And then I went down this rabbit hole and it led me to spirituality and it led me to breath work and it led me to like, who am I? It started with creativity, but the truth is that creativity is accessible in consciousness. And that has just completely blown up my entire belief system that I previously had, which was definitely a belief system around knowing things and being smart and being intelligent and being the straight A student. This whole unraveling for me has just made me question at every turn what I thought I knew. And I heard who's the quote from? Can't remember if it's somebody very smart who said, the more I know, the less I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's a sign of intelligence, questioning all the things that you know. And I think people have always thought that's the opposite. And really, it's the more you question the things that you know and you keep yourself sharp that way, the smarter you get, the more in touch with your intuition you become, the louder your inner voice becomes.
Yeah.
And another
Yeah.
thing to say is I kept thinking the darkness leads back to the light. You know, there's always that um what's the word I want? It's a balance, but duality, you can't have one without the other. And isn't it interesting how the darkness or the lack of trust that we have is leading us back to our own inner trust, which is the most important thing, right?
Yeah. That level of darkness is like it gets amped up so that the brightness of your inner light is so much brighter. I love how you
Yeah.
just pointed that out. It's so true, which is ultimately, when we come back to designing a life you love, the only way to design a life that you personally love is by listening to that inner voice and by understanding what it is that is your divine guidance. So there's probably never been a better time. I would gesture to say that maybe there's never been a better time in human history to design a life that you love and to have that invitation just rolled out for you to people who really want it. Those who are being called to that right now are being asked to be leaders into this new way of living, which is building things with more ease, building things within a way that is supportive to us, supportive to the earth, supportive to communities, supportive to consciousness, recreating things as our systems that are not supporting our human wellness and the wellness of our world. As those begin to collapse, we get to build a new way. And so those people who are seeing it a different way just really have so many huge opportunities. And again, that's why I get so excited about the time that we live in, even if it looks like there's so much darkness we're being shown back to so much light.
Yeah. Oh, I got goosebumps when you said that.
Mm, yeah.
So let's circle back to somatic work. You talked about breath work. How long have you been doing breath work? And tell me how you use that to not only help you get more in touch with your inner voice, but how you're seeing it unfold for your clients and other. I know your dad, you used on your dad, and
Yeah. I was guided to breathwork in the most unexpected way. It was in 2021, and I'm on a call for this business coaching program that I'm doing. And she invited a guest expert to come lead a breathwork session. I had no idea what breathwork was. I'm just following her instructions. I've got my eyes closed and I'm breathing, and my camera is on along with 200 other people who are in the room with me. And I'm breathing. You might have been there. I don't know. I can't remember when we met, but I'm breathing, and all of a sudden I just start sobbing uncontrollably sobbing. And I had always prided myself in being somebody who doesn't cry. Like that was a badge of honor. I don't cry. I only cry when I watch Jeopardy and somebody wins. That's when I I don't
that's
cry.
interesting.
Otherwise, I'm a very stoic person. And I turned my camera off. I turned the call off. You know, I'm a straight A student, so I would always watch every call to the very end, turned the call off, and I just sobbed my eyes out. And I was like, what just happened? And so I went down this rabbit hole of what is breath work? Why did that happen? What is happening with me? And it led me to begin facilitating breath work. And so, because what breath work did for me and what I see it doing for many people is to access the emotions that we have stuffed down, that we have not allowed ourselves to feel, and that are keeping us stuck in cycles, marionette style cycles that are not us living the life that is really intended for us. It's living according to somebody else's rules, and those cycles are beautiful. It's your body and your nervous system keeping you safe. What it thinks is keeping you safe, that's actually keeping you quite miserable. Breath work will give you access to that. And so for me, it helped me to access feelings that maybe didn't always feel so good. And eventually that helped me to access the feelings that do feel really good that I couldn't previously get to, and why I was I call myself a lost puppy dog back when I first started going down this journey. I was a lost puppy, and breathwork helped me find my way back home.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's powerful. And I've seen other people, do versions of breath work, but your version of breath work is what I'm talking about when I say it's powerful and it's meaningful and it does shift energy. Being in the room with, I don't know how many, like 200 people maybe you've done it at a couple different retreats that I've been to. And across the room, you hear people just completely letting it go. And it's like, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can do it. You can do it in big group settings like that of anywhere, 300 is the max. No, 400 is the max that I've done, down to a single individual person behind their computer screen. There's so many different ways that you can do breath work at your level of safety, but there is something very special and magical about communal healing and healing in a group of people live. And we just don't get that many opportunities to do that, where it feels safe and where we allow ourselves, sometimes because we're taken by surprise,
Yeah.
and other times because we elect to do it. In my case, that first breathwork session was completely taken off guard. I didn't know what was coming at me. But it's pretty incredible, the releases that we can have, because our energy, we just haven't felt safe to feel it. And what breathwork does, you didn't ask this question specifically, but I'll answer for the person who might be like, how does breathing help me do that? We don't feel safe to feel many of our emotions, and we have protectors that keep us from feeling them. Because if you feel that emotion, you're going to start crying in front of everybody, right? You're going to start sobbing uncontrollably, maybe, or you might get angry, and you've been told at some point in your life, it's not safe to be angry, and this is not the time or the place. I heard that one from my parents a lot. This is not the time or the place. And so we stuff it down. Well, then it gets covered up by another protector that stuffs it down even further. And so there's emotions that you haven't felt for sometimes decades that have just been stuffed down. And when you mindfully breathe, you disconnect the mind from those protectors for just long enough to allow them to be felt, to allow them some release. And the energetic release that happens in that openness when the mind is disconnected from judging and protecting is just absolutely incredible because all of our emotions are energy. So it's energy in motion, emotion. And so when we can disconnect the thing that's stopping it from being felt for just, it takes a brief second, it can move through the body and be felt and be seen. And the release that can happen from there is so huge.
And what I think people need to know is that, traditionally you sit in a therapist's office and you have to like relive the traumatic event and unearth the traumatic event, and you might not even know what it is. With breath work, there, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't really need to know, right?
You don't need to know. In fact, it's the knowing that might be keeping the pattern repeating. So there is new research that shows, some of the latest research shows that talk therapy, I'm not saying it's bad in every scenario. There
Right.
are some scenarios in which it is helpful, it's supportive, and especially at the very beginning of your journey, when you're
Mhm.
beginning to learn some things, it's very, very good. But over time, complete repeating, telling the same thing and repeating these cycles cognitively is actually reinforcing this mind body protection that's happening. And so it's reinforcing it and reinforcing it. And breath work allows for it to actually release instead of reinforcing. And so it can be really, 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 really powerful. Breathwork's one methodology and one modality. I also do somatic listening, which is what breathwork actually helps you to do. In my opinion, it gets so that you can listen to the sensations in your body, because every body or every sensation in your body has a message. It's arrived
Mm.
for something. There's a reason it's there and it has a message for you, and we haven't listened to the messages. So somatic listening and is huge. It's what I call the oats process that I work all of my students through, which is to observe, observe it with non-judgmental listening, observe what's coming up, ask it what it wants. Why are you here? So you get a pain in your shoulder. You observe it, you notice it, and then you ask the pain. I'm telling you to talk to your feelings, to your sensations. You ask it. It will answer you. It's pretty amazing. It will answer you why it's there. You ask it why it's there. You thank it for showing up, and then you shift out of its perspective because it's there for something that it feels like is the something. You shift back to your soul's perspective, which is that I'm always okay. I'm fully healed. I'm thriving. I'm alive. I'm fully present. It needs nothing. And
Mm.
so that process is so transformative. It quantum leaps my clients all the time, because when we have these patterns that are continuously cycling themselves, we just stay in them. And so all that
Mm.
takes is listening, listening, which is what we really struggle with as humans, this whole idea of listening.
It's the simple things that we struggle with. I mean, come on. Think of all the things we've talked about already. It's all just really like elementary grade stuff, right? But we
Yeah.
make things so much more complicated than they need to be. No, I love that you bring up the body is always talking to you. I talk about that a lot. I have my favorite chat GPT prompt right now is, what does the Kabbalah say about X, Y, and Z? Like, I have knee pain. What does the Kabbalah say about that? And that is all kind of the same thing that we're talking about. Just another way that your body's talking to you is through injury and illness. But I love that you bring up that you can just simply ask. And if you are slowed down enough and grounded enough, you can get an answer if you just listen. But
Yeah.
what do you say to people who scoff at that, or that say they don't get answers? What do you have to say to someone who would be from that state of mind?
Well, if somebody's scoffing at that, I would encourage them to be curious about why they're scoffing at that. Everything begins with curiosity, and any next level will come from very, very first a place of curiosity. And so that's we're observing and we're asking. We're observing,
Mhm.
oh wow, I scoffed at that. And then we're asking anything that we have some kind of reaction to, there's something there for us to learn. So I'll start with that. But a lot of people really struggle. I just got off of a somatic coaching session with this beautiful individual, and she said, I have no idea what joy feels like in my body. And so we went in and we brought an experience of a full body yes. I said, what can you remember a time that felt like just a full body yes. It felt like a yes in your body. And we took it down from that, like a really powerful sensation. And then we intuitively listened from there. And so that's the process that I work people through. So I would have people to learn to feel, what is a yes in your body when you feel so excited about something? What does that feel like in your body? If you feel a no, no is often a very, really good place to start. You can feel your no. When you are just absolutely not, you might feel tightness in your throat. You might feel sick to your stomach. You might feel like little knot. You might feel resistance in the heart. Those are often feelings. You might feel like stop in your hands. We all have a way that our body connects to us with our yes and our no. And that's the first thing that I have anybody who has not intuitively listened to themselves and doesn't know what these sensations in your body, like how to feel them and how to listen to them. Identify your yes and your no. And it's going to make dinner time so much easier when you can't choose what restaurant you want, because it's going to be so much more obvious what is a yes and what is a no for you. So if nothing else, it can stop many dinner arguments because you'll at least know, you'll at least know what you don't want so that you can get to what you do want.
Yeah. Well, it's the compass for your life, right?
Yes.
If you can use that to make every decision, think how much easier and faster you would make and move through decisions, and probably make decisions that are more aligned. Definitely make more aligned decisions.
For sure. Now, are those always going to be the decisions that benefit every single person in your life or that they feel like benefit? No. So sometimes learning your yes and your no can come with some challenges because you might have previously been saying yes in your life to things that are definitely a no. Many of us have done that. Almost all of us have done that. We've said yes to things that are no. We've also said a lot of no's to things that are yeses because we're not clear about what our yes is. So we'll say, oh, I don't know. My sweet niece last night, she's having her 6th birthday party, which she both invited me to and then uninvited me to on the same phone call.
But
She's
she gets
learning
away
how to
with it.
wield power, this little one. And she can't decide what she wants to do for her birthday. And I could see so clearly in her saying, well, maybe mom said I could go to Kansas City, but maybe this, but maybe that. And she's in this decision-making process. And I can see little me who wanted to do all the things, but wasn't clear about which thing felt like the right thing for me. I could just see it so clearly in this little 5-year-old and how early that starts, that we have so many options available to us, which is wonderful. How do we choose the one that to us feels most exciting and be willing to let go of all of those other juicy options? As business owners, I'm talking to the women in business, the women who are achievers, who are getting to a certain level. We have to learn discernment, and we don't learn discernment from a young age of this is what for me. And you talk, I know, a lot about trust and divine timing and trusting your divine calling, but what is aligned for me right now, and trusting that if any of those other ones are intended to come to you, they will come to you. So for her, it's like, okay, I want to have what sounds really fun for me. What's super fun for me right now is gymnastics. I'm going to have the gymnastics party. And it doesn't matter if Katie doesn't want to come to my gymnastics party, because that's what we'll do. We'll be like, well, but Katie wanted to go to the skating rink. And so we'll make our decisions based on other people, right?
Yep.
Based
Oh,
on
I have a
other
story for that.
points. That's how we'll start to do our decisions. And so we stop listening to ourselves. It's like, go have the gymnastics party. If nobody else comes, you're going to have a good time because you're going to love it. And if you're meant to go roller skating, you'll go on Katie's effing birthday. It doesn't need to happen on your birthday. You'll still get to go roller skating. You'll still get a Kansas City trip if that's intended for you. But do what you want to do for your birthday. And so I was just watching her last night and I was like, oh my goodness, I just see it forming so soon in our little brains, all of the
Yeah.
somersaults that we start to do for everybody else.
Yeah. And it's almost like they're kind of side-eyeing mom. Like, oh, is she going to be happy with my decision? Like, I
Right.
see that in my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And as parents, I'm not a parent, so I don't understand that. I imagine like you want to empower your child to make the best decisions that they can. And you have your own stuff. You have your own experience. And so how do you both allow them to choose their experience and you continue to choose your experience as a human being? You're not just a mother, you're a human being who has choice as well. And so it It's like so simple, but it's also complex, right?
Yep. Duality again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you? How do you, Lyndsey? I mean, you've got three little ones. How do you make those choices for yourself?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a balancing act. It's definitely something where you, especially right now, because I have such different ages, 14, 12, and 10 months, uh, because I'm slightly sleep deprived and, I have my hands full beyond measure. And um, it takes slowing down and it takes taking care of myself because if I'm, extra exhausted and I'm not taking time for myself in the morning, all of my listeners know that my morning is sacred and my planner is spiritual planner that um, is full of spiritual practices, my daily practices that keep me in alignment. I walk every morning, I meditate every morning, I journal every morning before the rest of the world wakes up and quote like sabotage my day. That sounds kind of bad, but if we don't take the time for ourselves in the morning and show up for ourselves that way, we can't show up for anybody else. And we can't make good decisions. We can't guide our children to make good decisions and listen to their intuition if we are operating from an empty or have.
So true. I love that you have such a beautiful morning practice. I'm sure you've told your listeners before, but at a quick brush, what's your morning practice?
So the planner that I created is called Blueprint. Design a life you love blueprint. And I wake up, no phone. I walk, I meditate, I journal. Um, and then I've got my planner and I set an intention for the day. What my daily win is going to be. I don't overschedule myself. I used to be like a serial list maker. I would have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with 40 things. And that is no more. I pick the top 3 to 5 things for the week and one thing per day. And it's simple, very, very simple. But like you said before, you're operating everybody else's feelings and you're up and on a string. I found myself living a life where I checked all the boxes, had all the things that looked good on paper, all the things that I thought I wanted, and I was empty. It was not where I just kept seeking and I would burn this thing down and start over. And then I'd burn this thing down and start over. I'd go on a vacation and it was just the puzzle was never solved. And that's because I was always looking outward and doing the things that looked good on paper that other people said, you know, you'll make more money, you'll be more successful doing this job. And I hated it, but I kept doing it. And then you get to that point in your life when you're looking around, like, how'd I get here? Who am I? Well, you're living your life for someone else.
I feel that. We've had different journeys, but mine was very similar. I did hair for how many years? 14 years. And I had my own hair business for 10 of those years. And I got to a point where one day I was mixing a lady's color. It was one of my regular clients. I loved her. She was wonderful. But I just had this thought, like, I don't even want to be here. I was like, whoa, not normal. Usually really looked forward to this person coming and sitting in my chair and being with her. I was like, something's not right. And so that led me to eventually, I completely dismantled that business. I gave all of my clients to all of my good friends and I went back to school and I got a marketing degree and I was moving through that trajectory, got a job that was awesome. It was so much fun. And I found myself at that same place. And so I was like, this too is a pattern. Something's happening
Yep.
here. So that led me down the rabbit hole that got me to where I am. But even in that, I went and I got a job that I thought was the job. I thought it was the job. The pay was amazing. I was working for a cool company and I thought this is it. This is like top of the game. And I was probably more unhappy than I had actually ever been, which is in part because I was chasing a title. I wasn't chasing the actual job itself. I thought it would be cool to have a certain job title, and that wasn't it either. So sometimes it takes a few. My grandmother always said, "You have to build 3 houses in order to know what you want." And so I built 3 houses, and now I'm in a new space and creating it in a completely different way, and that has made all the difference. And so if anybody's on that journey and you're like, okay, well, I've tried to design the life that I love several times and I keep burning the house down. It's okay. Remember, my grandmother says sometimes it takes a few tries and then you figure out, you know what? I don't want a walk-in closet. I actually want the bigger kitchen, So we get to learn through experience.
Yeah, exactly. So true. Do you specifically work with women or is it a mix?
Yeah. I don't necessarily specifically say that I will only work with women. I'm open to working with men. However, I primarily work with women. It's who I talk to as well, because a lot of the times, honestly, it's because women are courageous as shit and we're willing to go in and do the work. And so I also think that women are leaders and we are the ones who set the vision for the men. Like, that's the way that it works. Like, we are the creators, we are the creatives, and so we go first in so many aspects. And so we see a lot of women who are going in and doing this kind of emotional somatic work. There's also men who are doing it, but we see a lot more women, which is primarily the people who are called to do the kind of work that I do are women. I really, right now, I'm focused on working with visionary leaders who are building big things. I had a client the other day. She said, I'm here for a big, big life. And I love that. And I'll probably never forget it because of how just powerful that statement was from her. And I feel like that's the truth for so many people who I work with. Right now, I have a suite of programs that I offer. I have a mastermind that where we do the work that I was outlining of doing somatic listening. We learn that to a really deep level, to the point that you could guide others in doing it in my mastermind. But within my other programs, I have a program called Safe to Sell that teaches women how to sell with ease and with to work through our nervous system blocks that are keeping us from selling. Like you said that you've done sales. When I very first went into sales, oh my word. All of my own
Mhm.
personal crap came up. My
Mhm.
my fear of being the snake oil salesman that was actually rooted in me feeling like sales is sleazy and that people who do sales are bad. All of that was coming up in every single one of my conversations. It was coming up in my sales copy. It was coming up in my website. It was blocking me from being as clear and direct and honest and confident as I could be. So what I'm doing is helping people in that program, specifically supporting people in moving through those nervous system blocks that are keeping them from doing those things. So, kind of kickstarting my business back up again, as you and I talked about. But I'm having a lot of fun teaching those specific concepts.
Yeah. And remind me what your quiz is called.
Yes, I have a quiz called the Passion Finder Quiz. So it's a really, really great place to start, which is to learn how you can get paid doing what you love. So you can go to jenliss.com/quiz. It's got a little fun theme to it, and you can follow the prompts, and it will give you the profile, the archetype for you for moving into your business.
And I took that quiz and it was like spot on. I was in love with it. I printed it off in one of my binders. So I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. It's so accurate. I feel so seen.
How fun. I think I remember. I can't remember for sure, but I think you might have been the luminary, which might make sense. I can't
Oh,
remember
I
for sure,
think
and
it's a
that's okay. But
sage. Yeah.
maybe you're the sage. That also makes a ton of sense for you. Yeah. I
Yeah.
can see that for sure. So it's really fun. So go take that quiz, jenliss.com/quiz, and that will get you results, not just that help describe who you are and how you could be showing up in the world. I would encourage you to do what you did and reflect on, does this feel accurate? Does this feel in line with who I am? And then there's also there's a full profile of the ways that business ideas that you could possibly do, ways that somebody with your style of being might like to show up in the world, things that you could put out that you could potentially receive money from. So go take that quiz and see where it leads you. And then maybe eventually you'll be at the point of working on your nervous system things that stop you from being able to make money. But maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe you're free and clear.
Well, and what I like about that and what I want to tell people is if you're reading it and you're like not really sure about it, just play around with it. Because a lot of times we're just so out of touch that we don't really know. We don't know ourselves, So some of those quizzes and things like that can really just be a gateway, a doorway, a portal to, playing around and fucking around and getting paid and changing your whole life. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So you can design the life that you love.
Yes, exactly. Um, what else? Ooh, you've done a couple really cool retreats. Are you planning on doing any retreats for yourself, or is that something you're working on or in your awareness at all?
Yeah, I do an annual retreat with a friend on the island of St. Martin, called the Island Awakening Retreat. It's freaking magical. I can't wait every year to host this retreat, and I don't wanna give any of the goodies away, but if anybody is interested, if you go take my quiz, then you'll be on my email list and you can get info about it if you wanna do it, but, oh my gosh, we have the best time, and it's been amazing to witness the women who came to that retreat because there's people they're called to a big, big life, right? They're trying to design a life that they really enjoy. And we just did a check-in last week, and multiple people have started the businesses that they've been saying for years that they're gonna start. And there
Wow,
have
it hasn't
been,
been that long.
other people. It was just in June. So we've
Wow.
had it's every June, the first week of June. And so we've had some huge just transformational moments. And so much of that is women getting together in a room, which I know you do too. You're so passionate about retreats, women to getting together in a room and allowing ourselves to speak into the world to make manifest through our words the dreams that have been on our hearts and saying it out loud and being validated that it's not crazy, that it is totally possible for you to make that happen if you want to, if you choose to. And so from there, so much is possible. You've made that decision. You know what the yes is and what the no is, and you can move forward. So anyway, I do that every June. Maybe there'll be some others that I do in the future, but I'm always open to collaborating. I like um, going and offering breath work at retreats. I'm always open to that. So I know you and I have
Yeah.
talked about that even in the past.
Yeah, it's so good. Um, Now I lost my train of thought. Um, what do you do specifically every day to design the life that you love? Is there a morning practice that you do or um okay.
Yep. It's my morning practice. I am a creative at heart and I fight routine like wildfire, but there is one thing that I do not get out of bed unless I do. It has to be like the house is on fire for me to not lay there and do this. I align to the feelings that I desire to feel every day. And so I align myself to for me, and this will be different for every single person, but for me, it's the feeling of wow. I want to be awestruck every single day. I want to be excited every single day. I want to feel loved every single day. I want to feel a sense of connection every day. So for me, there's a certain phrase that I say to myself every morning that is connected to those things. And that phrase is intended to help me to feel those things in my body. So that's one of the things that that phrase is unique to every single person who I work with, that we come to what is that phrase for you. But everybody listening you could ignite that by feeling your full body yes. Like what is your full body yes in your body feel like? That's how you get essentially to what that is. So align to those feelings that you desire to feel every single morning. And then I say, today I expect miracles.
Mm,
I expect miracles every single day. So I align to those feelings. It's like I'm feeling it in my body now, which means I've already had it. Now give me more of it. Yes, please. And I expect miracles. So I do that every morning before I get out of bed. And I try to remember to do it as I go to bed. I'm not as good at that, but I do it every single day before I before I get out of bed.
I love that. I expect more and yes, please. That's something that I just started recently. Like when you see a sign, a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I don't know if I see signs." And it's just that we're out of touch with our inner voice. And every time we do see one saying, yes, please, thank you, send more, puts us in
I
that
love that.
alignment to receive. So that's beautiful that you brought that up again. Cool.
Yeah. I love that you
Yeah.
do that every time you see a sign. That's really beautiful. I
Yeah.
might take that.
And it feels like, have you ever seen the skit where Melissa McCarthy is on Saturday Night Live and she's doing a Pocahontas skit where all the animals and the feathers are flying in her face? That was me this summer. Like the hummingbirds literally were like whizzing right by me and like lots of animal signs this summer. So that's what I teased that I was like experienced the Pocahontas thing.
You're like more plays when all of a sudden you're like in a
Yep.
menagerie.
Right. I'm getting smacked in the face with hummingbirds and things like that. I remember what I was going to say before I lost my train of thought about retreats. Um, for anybody who has not ever experienced a retreat, what do you have to say to that? Like, what experiences have you personally had where you think they are valuable, and what kind of things do you hope that other women know about retreats so that they can experience them for themselves?
Yeah, the challenging thing about retreats is that you have to have experienced a retreat in order to really understand the value. Every time that I do a retreat, I've supported Kathy Heller with some of her retreats in the past, which are incredible. You and I met at one of her retreats. I mean, she says at the end of every retreat, like, if we could just express how amazing this is, it's just both it's human connection at its finest. It's connection to yourself in a way that you've never connected with yourself. It's connection to others in a way that you've never allowed yourself to be connected with others. And so that's where magic happens. Magic happens in those connections, in that space that we create for ourselves to go and to listen to our intuition and to be witnessed by other people. It creates just this like sonic boom of action and just inspired action that comes off the tail of that, the creative downloads that people have after leaving something like that. And part of it, in part, travel's so powerful, like getting out of your space. It doesn't even matter if the retreat's in your own city, going and staying in a hotel and going to the retreat and not retreating home every night, but being on retreat somewhere else. My aunt's a nun. Well, she passed away last year, but my aunt was a nun, and they would go on retreat, and I never understood what it was. I never understood what the hell my aunt did. She did spiritual guidance, but as a child, I had no idea what that meant. I just always knew she
Mm.
went on retreat, and it seemed to somehow be so magical for her. But as an adult now that I do these things, I realize the power in it too. So I admit that it is hard for people to understand the gloriousness that is on the other side of it. And when you're ready to do it, you'll know that you're ready to do it, and you'll go.
Yeah. I call it cracked open. Like, you can just see in the room
Mm.
who's been cracked open. And like by day 3, it's like, oh wow, everybody's just
Everybody.
cracked wide open. Day 1, everybody's kind of a stranger to each other, but it's just such a beautiful transformation to watch. I
It really is.
absolutely can't get enough of them.
Yeah, and hosting them, you also get the same experience alongside of the group of people too. So
Mhm.
it's incredible to get to host them and to also be an attendee. It's just I could do retreats all the time and just do that.
Yeah.
And I would be
Yeah.
happy.
Same.
Just attending and hosting.
Hmm.
We'll put that into the field.
Yeah. That's our new manifestation right there. Both of us. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And will you please remind our listeners where to find you?
Yeah, you can go again if you want to go take that quiz that we talked about. You can go to jenliss.com/quiz. Obviously, that's also my website, jenliss.com. But you can connect with me on Instagram. I'm jennifer.liss.coaching.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.